Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. I hope you're having a positive and productive day. My name is Kel with the Planner Aisle, and today I'm going through a few of my absolute favorite planner essentials and showing you all the ways these items help me stay organized and focused throughout my day. Before we get into my top 10 favorites, the primary item on your list should of course be your planner. I'm not going to focus on types of planners today since everything I list assumes you already have one, but I do have a detailed video coming soon that'll be a deep dive into how to choose the right planning system based on your personal style and goals. This is a fairly long video, so I've included timestamps in case you want to skip ahead to a particular section. And lastly, I will add links to all of the products I use down below. And as always, please leave me a comment with any questions or topics you would like for me to include in my next video. Without further ado, let's hop in. So the first must-have planning essential needs no introduction to the planning lineup, and that is sticky notes. These things serve so many purposes, even if you aren't a planner. I have these all over my office and use them to jot down quick reminders and appointment information. I also use these to pre-plan on my monthly spreads and to add tentative dates, particularly in my inbox. So here's where I like to list soft deadlines or follow-ups that I may need to revisit later, and then once I get confirmation, I'll move it from my inbox to my agenda. You can also use these as page markers, bookmarks, cord organizers, or gift tags. You can use them to color code or brainstorm as well. One thing I used to use these for back in grad school was as language labels. I was trying to learn Spanish at the time, and I would stick these all over my apartment on absolutely everything with the name of whatever I stuck it to translated in Spanish on the front. I also changed my TV and phone to display audio and speech in Spanish as well. It was a really good way to sort of immerse myself in Spanish culture, and sticky notes really helped me memorize common words and grasp the language a lot quicker. You can imagine having dozens of sticky notes all over my apartment looked a bit odd when people came to visit, but it worked for me, so no regrets. Of course, you can also use them for what they were originally intended for, which is mainly note taking. I find them super helpful with quick notes, so for me, I'll write down phone numbers, measurements, confirmation numbers, and passwords. Especially if I'm on the phone or in a meeting and I don't want to mess up a whole sheet of paper, I'll just grab a sticky and jot down whatever I need to, and then move it to my planner if necessary, or throw it away if not. I love that a lot of shops have pre-designed options now, so you can use them for specific purposes. These are a few of my favorites. I really like these appointment notes from Cloth and Paper. I have several of these throughout my A5 and my personal size agenda. These are from Poi and Hun, and I use these for packing list or shopping list reminders. These affirmation notes are also one of my favorites. I use these in my wellness planner, but also on days where I'm feeling a bit self-conscious or need a little extra motivation. These grid and memo notes are probably the ones I use the most, especially when I'm on the go, but there are dozens and dozens of ways that you can use these, which is why I love them so much. I'm a huge fan of products with multiple uses. I appreciate versatility, and I just really feel like I'm getting my money's worth. These also come in a ton of different shapes and styles and textures, so you shouldn't have any problem finding one that suits your needs, no matter how heavy or light you plan. In my opinion, sticky notes are by far the most useful office supply item you can ever use, and that's why it's number one on my list of essentials. Second on my list are page flags. So similar to sticky notes, you can always use these for a variety of different things. However, they're most commonly used to mark the page where you left off or mark a certain spot on a page. One of the ways a lot of planners, including myself, use these is on task cards as reminders or reference cards. So the first is what I call placeholder reminders, and this just means that as the date to complete the task gets closer, you move your page flag from your task card to your scheduling spread. So for example, I complete my expense report once a month, so about a week out from when I would submit, I move my flag from the card and transfer it to my weekly spread. You can do the same with weekly reminders, which is what I do with Factor, or with quarterly reminders, which is what I do with performance reviews. The second way you can use these is as a reference cards. So this would be more for your recurring tasks that change frequency often, or those that don't have a designated action date. So an example of this would be approving time off for my team. Sometimes I can get 10 vacation requests in a day, and sometimes I get 10 requests per month. Since it's not something that I do on a set cadence, it wouldn't make sense for me to move it back and forth in my planner. So instead, I'll leave it here at the front to serve as a visual reminder as I prep for my day. This is also a good method for events that recur weekly but on different days of the week. So, this could be things like tutoring sessions or exercise classes. This is where Orange Theory falls for me. Once I know what class I'm going to take, I'll write it in my planner, but I leave my page flag in the front for visibility. I've been using the page flag task cart method for about a year now, and it's a really good way to prioritize your time and keep your scheduling sections neat and functional. You can also use these to highlight certain areas in your planner. So maybe you have a vacation coming up or you're working for the weekend. You can use these to block off the area on your calendar without having to physically write the dates in. This is super helpful if your schedule tends to change a lot or if your layout has limited space. They also come in a lot of different shapes and styles and colors. My favorite are transparent flags. They're so easy to use, especially when it comes to editing for work. I can easily mark pages that we need to revisit and then make little notes in the margins without having to mark the paper. A lot of people use these with dividers or in place of dividers. If you like to categorize in a lot of detail, you may need more sections than you have dividers for, which makes page flags great subsection dividers, especially if you don't want to bulk up your planner. I currently have 6 main dividers and then 4 top tab dividers that live in my finance section. I also have a couple of tabbed page markers in here as well. Even so, I still use page flags to separate my monthly and my weekly overviews. Like stickers or highlighters, they really draw your eye to the area of the page that you want to focus on, which is such an important part of functional planning. You really want to be able to navigate your planner as efficiently as possible, so anything that helps you find the information you're looking for faster is going to naturally increase your productivity. One thing to note is that you don't have to use actual page flags to achieve these same results. You can always use sticky notes or washi if you don't have any page flags on hand. You can fold the washi tape over the edge of the page, or if you prefer, you can cut your sticky notes down to whatever size you want your page flag to be. If you do choose the washi tape method, just make sure that you use a light adhering tape so you don't tear your paper if you need to adjust it. If you do want to purchase actual page flags, there are so many shops that sell them. My favorite are these from Poi and Han. I don't think they carry them anymore, but these come in 5 separate colors on this little flexi plastic ruler card. It has a little tab at the top in case you want to carry it in a planner pocket. They're also a little longer than the standard page flags, which gives you plenty of space for text on your task cards. Like I said earlier, I love items that serve multiple purposes, but you can find page flags from tons of shops on Etsy in just about every color you can think of. Cloth of Paper has some really nice ones too. I have a few of theirs here, and you can also buy them in a variety of styles and colors at Office Depot and Target. So I may be cheating here just a little bit, but the third essential for any planner are writing utensils. This is technically more than one thing, but since it's all related, let's just pretend that it's one. So here I'm talking about pens, pencils, highlighters, and markers. There are so many options out there when it comes to writing tools, and it can be a bit overwhelming to know which ones are the best for you. But when it comes to writing, it will ultimately come down to writing style, personal preference, and trial and error. So, looking at pens, I think the first thing to consider is your handwriting. Do you write large or small? Are you a fast writer or do you tend to take your time? If you write really tiny, a thinner tip may work better. Your letters will be much more precise and you don't have to worry as much about legibility. If you write really big, you could use a 0.7 millimeter tip or larger, which may cause less stress on your hands, especially if you're writing a lot at one time. Then there's types of pens, and this will largely depend on your handwriting style, the type of paper that you're writing on, and the overall look that you're going for. There are several styles of pens out there, but for the purpose of this video, most planners will opt between ballpoint, rollerball, and gel pens. I know a lot of planner users use fountain pens as well, however, those tend to be a little more nuanced, so I'll save that for another video. So my all-time favorite pen is the Uniball 1 Signo Gel Pen. It has a 0.38 millimeter nib and is the only one that I use in my planner. I love the look of thin ink on my spreads. I can write a lot more in condensed spaces, and it just looks really nice and balanced. My handwriting is on the smaller side, and so thinner tips make my handwriting much easier to read. Also, the ink with this particular pen glides over the paper so smoothly. It's highly pigmented and really gives a nice dark black finish. It also doesn't feel scratchy like a lot of thinner tips tend to do sometimes, and it feels really nice in my hand. They do come in a few different colors, and you can pick these up on Amazon or at several of the planner shops. Another one of my favorites is the Pentel Energel Liquid Gel ink pens. These have a 0.5 millimeter nib, and I primarily use these in my work notebook and my journal. They are also a good middle of the road pen and is pretty much the standard gel pen in the planning community in terms of not too big, not too small. It's a good choice if you're right-handed or left-handed, and it dries pretty quickly as well. If you have large handwriting, you will not want to use any tip that's less than 0.5 millimeters and probably something around the 0.7 or the 1 millimeter range. These tool pens have a 0.7 millimeter nib, and as you can see, the ink is really thick in comparison to the Uniball and the Pentel. This pen writes like butter. I mean, the lettering is so clear and it's incredibly smooth. Like most thicker nibs, it does take a little while for it to dry, but if you have large handwriting or if you just like the look of thicker ink, this is a must have pen for your collection. Ballpoint pens are my least favorite when it comes to planning. I really like precise, sharp lines, and a lot of ballpoint pens just don't have a consistent ink flow, especially if you have tiny handwriting. In their defense, though, I haven't really tested a lot of them. The one I'm using here is purely for decoration on my desk, so I'm sure there's some out there that are great for planning. If you currently use a ballpoint pen in your planner, let me know in the comments below. Lastly, I do want to mention color pens. I don't use too many colored pens in my main planner, but I do use them in my wellness section. So these are the Stabilo Fineliner pens. They are felt pens with a 0.4 millimeter nib and come in a huge range of colors. These are by far my favorite pens to color with, and the thing I love about these is the size. As you can see, they are super narrow, which gives you a lot of flexibility and control of your design. Tool also has some felt fineliner pens that also have a 0.4 millimeter tip that are pretty similar to the Stabilos. Pentel and Sharpie make some nice gel colors as well. Just make sure that you always do a pen test before you purchase to make sure that you like the way it feels in your hand and to make sure it doesn't bleed through your paper. So moving on to pencils, I don't use pencils all that often except when I'm sketching or bullet journaling. When I do need them, the only ones that I use are these old school Papermate mechanical pencils. You can buy these just about anywhere. They're super cheap. I think I got a pack of 40 of these from either Walmart or Target. I can't remember, but they last forever and the lead is somewhat sturdy. It does break every now and then, but nothing excessive. The eraser does wear pretty quickly, but you can always purchase erasers separately. These are retractable erasers from Pentel, and you can get a set of 3 of these on Amazon for $3 or $4. So last underwriting instruments are highlighters and markers, and these are perfect for emphasizing certain dates or tasks in your planner. The highlighters I use are the Mad Liner brush pens. They're perfect for key coding or marking the status of your tasks or to-dos. So one way that I use my highlighters is in my weekly spread to mark which meetings were moved or which ones were canceled. I also use them in my finance planner to color code the expense categories I'm tracking for the year. That way, at the end of the month, it's much easier to total my tracked expenses when I complete my monthly summaries. I also use these to track my weight and my mood in my wellness section and to highlight dates and events in my work notebook. The cool thing about these is that they're dual tip highlighters, so you have your brush on one side and then a fine tip marker on the other should you need to use it. I don't use the fine tip as often, but I will use it if I'm color matching or working on something fun for work. The only markers I use are these clean color dot markers. They come in several colors, and like highlighters, they're great tools for color coding and marking specific dates. I use these all the time in my fitness planner to differentiate between types of exercise on my main calendar spread and on sticky notes to highlight an appointment or list item. These are also a great alternative to dot stickers. So if you don't use stickers in your planner or you're looking for something that doesn't bulk up your page, dot markers are a really good option. Just like stickers, they can help you identify priorities and other focus points much quicker, and they also add color and vibrance to your spreads while still remaining super functional. I think these are also a good option for those who don't tend to change out your planner supplies very often. As many of us know, stickers do tend to run out quickly, especially if you use them every day or across multiple planners. Depending on which ones you buy or how often you're buying stickers, it may be a bit more practical to opt for dot markers instead, especially if you're looking for an alternative to transparent dot stickers. The ink in dot markers is going to last a lot longer than a sheet of stickers and will most likely be more cost effective in the long run, which is such a great option to have for anyone who's trying to minimize their sticker collections or cut back on planner supply spending. One thing to note is these markers do tend to bleed through paper if you press down too hard, so make sure that you're always pressing down lightly or you're choosing a heavier weight paper if you have that option. One last thing to note is with stickers, you can always reposition them if you need to, whereas with dot markers, you're pretty much stuck with where you make your mark. The only way to remove it is to cover it up in some way, which brings us to our fourth essential, whiteout. If you use pens or markers or any other permanent writing utensils, then at some point a mistake is bound to happen and whiteout will become your new best friend. Like most items on my list, there are tons of options on the market. One that I use quite frequently is the Tombow correction tape. I like that the tape on this one is really thin, so you don't have to worry about it looking too raised off the paper. It also has this little wiggle tip thing, I'm not sure what it's called, but it lets you use it at an angle and helps release the tape a lot smoother than some of its competitors, which keeps the line looking really neat on your page. Another great thing about this one is that it's not wet, so you can write over it instantly. I also noticed that the fibers of the material for the Tombow are really tight, so if, like me, you use a 0.38 millimeter pen nib or thinner, you don't have to worry about piercing the tape. The second option I use is just the old school brush whiteout by Bic. I use this if I have to mark larger areas or areas in my notebook or journal that I'm not using as often during the day. You get a nice consistent spread of color over a much larger area. The downside to this one is that it can take forever to dry, even for the quick dry bottles, and the color, depending on your paper, may come out with a slight yellow tint to it, especially if you mark on 28-pound paper or less. I always have one of these in my planner bag and at my desk. I use it almost daily, and it keeps me from wasting paper or having to do a bunch of rewrites. Another option, if you don't want to use whiteout or correction tape, is a white paint pen or marker. They are around the same size as regular pens, and they don't take up any extra space. You can't really use these to correct large areas, but they work super well for tiny mistakes, like if you made a line a little too long or put a bullet point in the wrong section. If you don't want to deal with pens or whiteout at all, you can always utilize stickers, sticky notes, or washi to cover up the error as well. So fifth, we have the label maker. If you like to make your own labels or task cards, categorize sections, label your file folders or storage bins, or just add text to about anywhere you can think of, a label maker is a must-have accessory. I can't tell you how many times this has come in handy for me. I use this on my page flags and my weekly layout. I don't love my handwriting, and since I use these page flags as recurring tasks, I want it to look as neat as possible. I also use labels all throughout my home. I use them to label past year planner storage and on boxes in the garage. I know a lot of people use them in their kitchen to label ingredient jars or pantry items. If you travel a lot, you can label your travel size shampoo, face wash, and skincare bottles. I also use these in my car to label items in my emergency kit. Of course, you can always handwrite labels or print your own with Microsoft or Avery templates. I do agree that printable templates are the best option if you're printing labels in bulk. However, if you only need a few labels at a time, a label maker is going to save you a whole lot of time and ink. So the one I have here is by Brother. I purchased this one on Amazon for around $40 or so. The great thing about this one is that it has so many different styles and templates you can choose from. There's a large variety of fonts and symbols. This one also has a full emoji keyboard, which you may never need to use, but it's always a nice option to have. You can also purchase different label tape for it as well. I personally love the transparent tape. It looks really great when labeling clear or semi-clear bottles or storage bins. And then I just use the standard white tape for labeling anything with a dark background, like my planner or sticker storage. One thing I'm planning on using this for next is labeling the cords in my office and my bedroom. I have at least 10 things plugged up at any given moment, and whenever I go to unplug something, it takes me much longer than it should to figure out what cord goes where. The sixth must have planner essential is a page lifter, and this is one of those things that you don't know you need until you have it. So, the intended purpose of a page lifter is to lift the back pages in your planner so they don't curve or bend when you open and close your agenda. A lot of them have wider openings at the top and bottom, and sometimes on each hole, and that's there to help keep your pages from pulling at the ringed edge. Because it raises your paper at the rings, it keeps your back pages straight and in line with the other pages in your planner. In terms of keeping your planner neat and aesthetically pleasing, page lifters are a definite must have, but they also serve as extra storage space for page flags and sticky notes so you never run out in a pinch. An alternative, if you don't want to purchase a page lifter, is to make one yourself. You can use heavy cardstock or flexi plastic. Just make sure that when you punch your holes that you make them wider so it can adjust and not cause your pages to rip. So I've already spoken briefly about this one, but the next item is certainly optional, but it's essential for those that do use them, and that is functional stickers. I use stickers every single day when I'm planning. I use them on my wall calendar, overviews, monthlies, weeklies, supplemental sections, in my wallet. For me, aside from sticky notes, stickers are by far my most useful addition to my planning routine and is the sole thing that not only keeps me on top of my tasks and schedule, but that also saves time and energy when I'm using my planner during the workday. I think when most people think of functional stickers, they think of dots, icon, or simple shape stickers, and those are definitely the most common. So many shops sell functional stickers. They come in all sizes and can be used for a number of reasons. I like to use dot stickers on my yearly overviews to highlight birthdays, anniversaries, and other important dates. I use them in my quarterly planner to mark deadlines and on my monthly spreads to mark holidays and bills. I have a lot of different uses for them in other sections throughout my planner as well. In my finance section, I use them to mark if something is a sinking fund, a reimbursable or business expense, or if I paid using cash. And then in my weekly section, I use them for all sorts of things. This is also where I use icon stickers a lot. I have a whole host of these, most of which I purchased from Etsy shops. I have several to mark birthdays, appointments, important meetings or phone calls, exercise days, vet appointments, and a lot more specific activities. So, one of the goals of functional planning is giving everything a purpose and using your time and space effectively. That's the thing that I love about stickers. It's an easy way to highlight something important without having to write it out. It also adds a decorative element to your spread while also keeping your layout productive. One topic I get questions on a lot is around decorative planning, specifically where that falls in line with functional planning. Can you do both? What does it actually mean? Can I still have a functional planner and use stickers? So I wanted to give you my thoughts on this. So just because you use colors or decorative stickers in your planner does not mean it's not functional. This is another thing that comes down to personal preference. This is oversimplified, but in essence, functional planning essentially means that everything in your planner serves a purpose to meet whatever the intended function of your planner is. Decorative stickers do serve a purpose for a lot of planners out there. It could be something as simple as cute dashboards to divide your sections or fun stickers in your weekly sections to mark holidays or events. The important thing is that you don't book your planner up with things that negatively impact your intended goal or function of your planner. I'm not going to go too deep in the weeds here, but I am doing a series on this topic as well as a corporate admin series. So if you work in the corporate world or want to learn more about functional planning and other planning systems, make sure to subscribe. One thing to note is that this doesn't necessarily apply with supplemental planners or journals, since those are designed less for productivity and more for a creative outlet, but that's just a quick explanation and some of the things that you may want to consider when choosing stickers, color schemes, or other planning tools for your agenda. Okay, so I sort of cheated again on the eighth essential. I actually have 4 items here, but they're all a part of one system, so we're going to let this one slide too. So the 4 must-have items in this system are all geared around printing your inserts from home. That is paper, a paper trimmer, a printer, and a hole punch. If you have a ring planner or a disc planner, you know that you have to purchase inserts to fill them with. While you can always purchase from planner shops, sometimes it's easier and more cost-effective in the long run to print inserts yourself. One of the main layouts I always reprint are notes pages or list pages. Since these are inserts that you use all the time, having a template that you can print whenever you want is going to save you time and money compared to purchasing a set number of notes pages over and over again from a shop, especially when you add in shipping. So, big disclaimer here, if you don't have any of the 4 items I'm listing below, it is going to cost quite a bit up front, so make sure that you really have a good idea of how often you're going to be using inserts and your planning style before you go out and purchase these tools. Although it is pricey up front, over time it can save you a lot of money, but only if you're using inserts regularly. So the first step to printing your own inserts from home is finding the right paper. Typically you want a heavier weight paper for your planner so it's a bit more durable and you get less ghosting. The paper that I use is from Office Depot. It's the HP Premium Choice Laser Paper. It's 32 pounds and is my absolute favorite. It's really smooth and it's a nice crisp white. I've also used the Xerox Bold digital 32-pound paper as well. I like it too. It's a little more of an off-white color, so just something to consider depending on your preference. Amazon also has some nice paper options, and you can always go to Office Depot or Office Max to test out any paper before you purchase. So the next item you're going to want is a good paper cutter. This is definitely not a one size fits all. There are a lot of lower quality paper cutters out there on the market that unfortunately don't cut that well and don't hold up over time. A lot of these aren't cheap, so you definitely want to make sure that you're reading the reviews on whichever option you decide to purchase. One thing I look out for are comments that mention frayed edges. These tend to happen on trimmers where the blades aren't as sharp or the track is wobbly. Also, you want to always check the paper limit. Some cutters only let you cut 2 or 3 sheets at a time before the edges will fray, while others can hold up to 15 or 20 sheets. I've also seen cutters with the attached chop arms that can bend pages if you don't hold it just right, and you also want to keep an eye out for upkeep and how often you have to replace the blades. My favorite is the Precision Rotary Bypass Trimmer by Fiskars. This one is a bit of an investment, but it gives me the cleanest lines of any trimmer I've used. It also has a self-sharpening blade, so I don't have to worry about replacing it. The only downside to this one is that you can't lift the blade, so you have to be really careful with crop marks. If you use the standard 90-degree outward facing marks, you'll end up cutting the crop line on the third turn, so you have to manually use the measurements, which can sometimes throw off the sizing. One little thing that I like to do is take a pencil and take that line just a little past the cuff, so that way when you cut, you still have a guide. This one is also really big, so storing it may not be the easiest. For me, I make it work. I really like nice crisp edges to my paper, so this has been a lifesaver. Another option that's quite a bit cheaper is the smaller one from Fiskars. I picked this one up at Michael's. The good thing about this one is that you don't have the issue with the crop marks and it's a lot more mobile and easy to store. You do have to change the blades out with this one, and if I try and cut any more than 3 or 4 pages of 32-pound paper, the edges will look fuzzy, so just something to keep in mind. The third essential to have in a printing system is, of course, a printer. There are a ton of printers out there, many of which can suffice for your needs, but there's a couple of things I would recommend you look for if you don't have a printer already. First would be purchasing a duplex printer, which is essentially just a printer that can print on both sides. You can manually turn pages, but it's a nice feature to have and saves a lot of time, especially when you're printing a lot of pages at once. Second, I would decide between buying a laser printer and an inkjet printer. There's a lot of differences between the two, but for the purposes of printing printables, there's just a few key things to consider. So, inkjet printers tend to do better with intermittent printing as well as graphics. So, if you're printing something with a lot of color a few times a week or so, this may be a better option for you. On the other hand, laser printers are really designed for heavy duty printing and really excel with black and white print. They also print super fast and the ink looks really sharp on paper. I have a laser printer. This one is by HP. The print quality is really good and the lines print out nice and sharp. This one I got at Office Depot at a Black Friday sale. And then I also have an inkjet printer that serves as a backup. I purchased this one from Best Buy several years ago, also at a Black Friday sale. This one is the Canon Pixma All-in-One, and it's another great option. Honestly, both will do a fine job at printing your inserts. The difference will really show if you do a lot of heavy printing or if you print high quality graphics or complex text. So the fourth and last item under the printable essentials is a hole punch. Ideally, you want to purchase one that's adjustable to different sizes. This one's by the Happy Planner. It adjusts to several of the most popular planner sizes. And I purchased this one from Hobby Lobby. They always have half off sales, so I think this one ended up being $10 or $12. And then I also have a disc punch for my disc bound planners. This is the Arc System Punch, and I purchased this one from Staples a while back, and it is also adjustable. The ninth must-have planner essential is the acrylic ruler. These are not only great for taking quick measurements, but they're perfect for bullet journaling and sketching as well. I use this in my wellness planner to draw lines in grid boxes. The great thing about these is that they're transparent, so you can see the start and stop of the ink under the ruler, so your lines are much more precise. These also work great as guides for your snipping tool. Because they tend to be more durable than plastic rulers, you don't get those little nicks in the side that can throw off your alignment. I've messed up so many pages by accidentally cutting into the plastic when I'm tracing, and these rulers really helped clean up my layouts. The one I have here came in a desk supply set on Amazon, but you can get these from several planner shops. I know May Paper Co. sells a really nice one, and I also have this multicolored one from Erin Condren, and I believe she has a clear option as well. So the 10th must-have planning essential is storage. Proper storage can be the difference between finishing a task in 5 minutes versus an hour. Planner supplies builds up so quickly, and without a good storage system, you can easily misplace things or lose things, which can really impact your overall productivity, especially when you're working on a deadline. So how and where you store your supplies depends on a number of things, but in general, you want to store the things you use most often within arm's reach and the things you use less often further away. Storage options that have cabinets or drawers are always a good idea. It keeps your space looking neat and organized, and it's just a good way to store excess supplies out of sight. Drawer organizers work really well too and are perfect for keeping all of your smaller items together like paper clips and page flags. I picked up a bunch of these clear acrylic makeup holders from HomeGoods a while back. I use them to hold stickers, pens, extra supplies. I have some memo pads here in the bottom drawer and some sticky notes and some more pens and things on this side. Another idea for storing things like notebooks and inserts are storage boxes. I like to use boxes from orders placed online, as well as any decorative boxes that I may have lying around. Again, it's just a good way to store things out of sight, but still be able to access it when you need it. If you're trying to find places to store excess dividers or dashboards, you can use planners that you're no longer using. You can also use vinyl covers. These I purchased off of Amazon. They come in a pack of 2 and are perfect for housing dashboards that are in my rotation. My office is really small. I unfortunately don't have too much storage space, but I purchased 2 desks that have drawers so I could at least keep my essentials close by. My big desk has 3 drawers for storage and then a shelf, and this is just a little portable drawer system I purchased off of Amazon just to give me a bit more room. And then this is a standing desk that I got off of Wayfair. This one has 1 drawer in the middle, which is where I keep my journals, some sticky notes, my blue light glasses, and other things that I use on a regular basis. I keep all of my large planner tools, extra inserts, notebooks, and things in my closet here. And then I have extra paper and stickers and more supplies in my hallway cabinet. and in my living room under my TV stand. I'm not going to go into too much detail on my full storage setup in this video, but I am filming a full home office and organization tour video for July, so make sure to check back in a couple of weeks if you want to see that video. So I have one bonus item, and that is journaling cards. So yes, journaling cards are decorative and they do add a personal touch to your planner, but the reason I consider them an essential planner item is because they always bring a dose of positivity to your day. A lot of them have great quotes or affirmations and remind you to take a break, slow down, and focus on the things that are the most important to you. I do tend to struggle with anxiety, and there's days where I wake up and I don't feel motivated, or maybe I finished a rough meeting. I'll flip to a page in my planner, read a quote on a journaling card, and I'll smile a little bit or laugh a little bit, and my mood is instantly a little better. Mental health is so important, and I really try and surround myself with as much positivity as possible. Journaling cards are a great way to turn that positivity into something tangible and brighten your day a bit so you can help brighten others. And that wraps up my top 10 must-have planning essentials. I know this one was a long one, you guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this and want to see more planner organization and lifestyle videos, then please hit the like button and subscribe. You would really help my channel out a lot. I have a lot of exciting things coming, including my website launch in just a few days, so make sure to follow me on Instagram for the latest on launch dates and freebies. Sending positive vibes to you all. Until next time, have a wonderful rest of your day.